Hi.
Hello.
There we go.
We have audio at the start this time. What a time to be alive.
I know. We're learning. We keep saying that. Welcome to the Weekly Fright stream. I'm Josh. This is Simon.
Hello.
And Matt, the ethereal presence. That's the joke now.
We're just going to have to stop introducing him at some point.
No, he'll appear at some point. You know, when he has something to say. He doesn't have anything to say at the moment. He's saying it all through the production of the music.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't joined us before, Frights is a band of which we are a part, and as is Matt. And we make music, though you haven't seen any yet, and that's because we're slack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But we'll be getting one step closer after today's stream, in which we will be picking a distribution service.
Oh yes, that's like one of the things we're talking about today, and setting some goals and breaking them down and into bite-sized chunks. Even though we've already been kind of doing that.
Well,
it's nice to.
They're not quite bite-sized yet.
No, and they're also not quite getting done.
Not quite getting done is maybe an understatement.
Well, I don't necessarily think that's true. I think, you know, our goals so far have been based around proficiency and just building up momentum. So we've been doing that. You know, in 6 weeks we've missed one stream because we just had a big problem with technical stuff. It's not that we weren't sitting here wanting to do it. We got stitched up.
Yeah, and I mean the streaming is probably the area where we've needed to understand what proficiency looks like most.
Yeah, well, I'd also say that there's other areas, like in particular, like I don't think we have any problem with producing music quickly anymore. Or slowly. Like we're a lot further.
Quickly is debatable.
Well, no, okay, so like the musical component of the tracks, I feel like the instrumental component, I think is under control, right? Of the music that we're writing.
Yeah, that's fair.
This week's challenges have been looking at our past lyrical and songwriting abilities and going, it's a bit, you know, stinky.
Stinky.
Yeah.
It's an interesting adjective.
Yeah, I mean, it's particularly, I mean, guys, I've been looking at them the last couple of days, and like I know I used to write better lyrics a couple of years ago, just purely because I haven't done it.
Yeah, it's atrophy.
Yeah, it's atrophy. And the lyrical work that we've been doing has all been very kind of in the moment. So
yeah, which is great for like filler stuff
and
and defining what a melody
looks
like
and all that kind of, and even kind of coming to an idea around a song if you're going at it from that direction. Yeah, which is kind of what we have been doing.
For that process of refining into a finished product, we haven't really.
Well, I haven't done it for a while, and you haven't done it really ever.
Yeah, I mean, point to any part of music, and that's true for me.
Yeah, I know, but you know, there's been some kind of points of inspiration, not points of inspiration, but like kind of inspiring moments for you here.
Breakthroughs. There's breakthroughs like every day for me.
Yeah.
Which is lovely. You know, it's a lovely part of being an amateur, and it's a lovely part of stepping into a discipline that you're not normally part of. Definitely part of the joy of being involved in a project like this, or anytime you join any team that's outside of your expertise. It's part of the joy of changing jobs, even sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I like that. There's a joy of going back and not having to think about what you're doing though as well. So, which is what I've been doing.
Brain off.
Brain off.
Autopilot on.
Correct. Well, it's not brain off. It's like brain doing other things, like doing the things that I want to be doing.
Yeah.
So you can still earn a bit of cash and work towards the broad, like the major goal. I think that's our best intro yet. I reckon we kind of covered a bit of what we're going to talk about, and now we'll get into it.
All right.
So we've got 3 parts today. The first part is going to be going over what's happened in the world a little bit of an update on where Frights is at, where we're at. We've already kind of started there with the lyrical discussions. We don't have any metrics yet, obviously, but we'll kind of talk about our own goal metrics and what's been happening. Then we'll have a quick break and we'll go back to what we were doing last week and continue the conversation around goal setting now that we've done this more macro look at what our motivations are, which we kind of knew, but it's nice to have them on paper, and take the next step, which is kind of setting goals and breaking them down into bite-sized chunks with deadlines and things like that, you know. And then the kind of the final little bit that we're going to do is picking a distribution service, because we do have music to share with people, but there's this big thing standing in the way, which is like what streaming service is kind of appropriate for us. And you know, there's arguments around why you're even thinking about this when you could just bloody throw it up and be done with it. I know that there's problems with some of them, and I don't particularly want to have everything removed from streaming services, because we put it on one where if something happens, it just gets wiped from the streaming services along with all the information and stuff like that.
Is that a thing?
Huh?
Is that a thing?
That is a thing.
Oh, that's annoying.
Yeah.
It sounds like you might have an anecdote or something around that.
Oh, no. It's just
heard.
something that in my really brief research so far that came up about Distrokid is that if you forget to pay your monthly subscription, it will wipe everything. I think within a certain time frame. I don't think it does it instantly. But
so what? If you upload stuff, you're beholden to paying a service fee forever.
That was my brief understanding. Don't quote me on it, because we're going to have to go through that and have a look at it. But there is a yearly monthly fee associated with using that platform.
Okay.
Whereas something like CD Baby, which is an older service that has kind of found its way into the 21st century in a lot of ways. That was the first distribution service I ever used, was CD Baby. And from a previous project, I've still got records up that I only ever paid for once.
Yeah, right.
That are still collecting royalties from streaming services and whatever. So, you know, I understand the subscription model for sustainability of businesses and what they, you know, how they need to continue to operate and update their software and all that bullshit. But when you like kind of can put that over, you know, a long period of time, it becomes like absolutely silly, and you're overpaying, I would say. And so effectively we're consumers of these platforms, so we need to be thinking quite smartly about consuming those services. So where CD Baby is quite good is when you upload a track or a record, you pay a flat fee, and that's it.
Anyway, we'll take a closer look at that in context.
Yeah.
Was that all? Was that all the components?
I think that's all we're talking about today. So I guess let's get into
where are we starting?
The check-in, I guess. The check-in. Because the check-in has kind of also become our cultural kind of touch point as well. So,
as in like a wider industry.
Yeah, a wider industry chat as well. So that's been kind of cool. We'll go back to what we were kind of talking about at the start, which is let's talk about what's been happening with Frights and the lyrics stuff. Because I have something to say about that. We've been kind of with the music that we've already written in the old kind of songwriting sessions from the last 2 years. There's been, you know, kind of initial excitement about what we've been producing, and then production fatigue as we kind of move into the production process. Some of these songs have been really easy to get over the line, and some of them have been quite difficult. And I would say like something like Thrill of the Chase, which is something that we've played with lyrics on for quite some time. It just hasn't quite found its legs when it comes to the lyrical content. I think that's a kind of a continuing kind of theme in the production process, like the minimal production processes that we've done so far. The instrumental components are really great, but the lyrics are not living up to the quality of the instrumental components. Mm-hmm. And you know, I suspect that there might be, to a degree, some amount of overthinking on our part, but also I think that there is a genuine problem as well, or with the lyrical content that we have currently, which has been like a collaboration between a lot of different people outside of the band as well as within the band. But I think a lot of the kind of most of the lyric writing has happened externally, with collaborators rather than with us, where we might, where some of the kind of good idea, or not the good ideas, the ideas that resonate for what we're trying to do have been seeds that have been planted by you or myself or Matt or more experienced songwriters that we've collaborated with that then have been expanded out and haven't been able to maintain that kind of integrity, I guess is the word, songwriting integrity. And particularly in the last week since we streamed last, it's been not a focus, it's been kind of something that I've been putting back in my head.
Yeah, sure.
Playing with words and shuffling them around and doing what you do with songwriting, thinking about concepts and all that fun stuff. And realizing that we do have kind of a problem there that will be something we need to solve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which we've kind of talked about off stream a little bit. Like, do you have anything to say about that?
Not particularly. I mean, I agree in the large scale about what you're talking about. I think that whenever I've revisited these songs, I'm not convinced.
Yeah.
That you know, there's for me it feels like very obvious room to take it in a bolder direction, stuff that's less kind of. It's not that being abstract in lyrics is a problem, but the underlying.
There's nothing really holding them together. Like that's my feeling of it.
It feels thin. Like they're not connected to this idea of that we keep coming back to about if we're going to make something that is a cultural artifact, it needs to the strength of it is about how strongly it's tied into the wider cultural net of stuff.
Yep.
And that linkage is the weak point for me. There's nothing wrong with the lyrics. There's nothing wrong with the way the words sound. There's nothing wrong with the way they hold together. It's just that it's not linked. And you know that can be. It's such a multifactorial problem that it's hard to even point at something and go, well, that's the weak spot, because you can have a song that's very abstract and very nothingy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's connected not through the actual real componentry of the song itself, but through like other meta things. The big example of this one for me is always 433, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you've got this track that is silence for 4.5 minutes. And if you or I were to release a song that was just silence for 2.5 minutes, let's say, it becomes a real who cares. There's no value to that. Why is it valuable? It's not. It's trash.
Yeah.
But
my version of it was when I did it by accident.
There was a funny spin on it online once, which was it was a rest note, and it was like every bar had one note, and then it was like it was silence but getting faster, basically, as a song.
Oh, yeah.
Until every 16th note was a rest.
What is that? I've seen that.
Which is
before.
cute. Like that's a cute spin on it.
Yeah. It's kind of satire in like a musical satire or
it's a
joke.
musical joke.
Yeah.
But my point is though that so who did 433? Was that Phil?
John Cage.
John Cage. Not. Yeah. I was going to say Philip Glass. That's not right.
No, he's still around.
John Cage. But the fact that this is a person who has that the wider audience is for that work, which is effectively music critics, or academics even. Maybe critics is even too low in the stack. But you've got this very academic idea, and the fact that it's coming from someone who is regarded within those circles as being worth listening to, of having a strong opinion about musicality, means that it works.
Yeah.
So the point of saying all that is that it can be meta factors that connect a song to a wider cultural idea, but we're coming from a position where we don't have any of that clout effectively.
No, we're starting from scratch.
So everything that we do has to be connected in the material of the song itself, which is a arguably harder place to come from. It's going to be easier in some ways because the surface area for thought is smaller, but it's more specific.
There is some overthinking that's going to happen, though. I think
I'm not worried about that.
No, I'm not worried either. Particularly given that we've got these goals.
We're good at overthinking. We do it all the time.
Yeah, we do it all the time. We have kind of philosophies in place, like the all your favorite songs got released philosophy that the kind of what do all your favorite songs have in common that they got released. That kind of thing that we talk about a lot is like really it really helps us remember that it's important not to get caught up in the overthinking component. So I think we're on track in that respect to not get caught up in this this endless cycle of it needs to be perfect or it's not good enough to release. I think we've demonstrated that we can do things that are kind of quite shallow but quite compelling. Like I would say that Not So Nostalgic has a lot of shallow elements. It was done quite quickly, and the production process on that was quite the instrumental component was done in the 4 hours that we spent doing the songwriting session or production session, depending on what you want to call it. And then there was just a single verse that we wanted to re-record just purely because the Tommy from Ghost Coast, Pistol Black, wanted to do it better. And usually we would kind of look at it and go, oh, maybe you're overthinking it, Tommy. But in this case, it was like we kind of knew that he could do something a bit more like a better performance that he would be happy with and we would be happier with, and that song's kind of it's not a nothing song, but it is and it's beautiful.
Yeah. But some songs exist like they're expanding out of like a moment. Yeah. And for me that's what that song is. Yeah. It's about creating it's a little slice of a vibe, and it's about turning that into something that is 2.5 minutes long. Yeah. When I hear that, there's so much imagery that comes through for me. Like I feel like I'm standing at the departure gate of an airport or something like that. Like it's this little moment, and it's just sitting in that for a couple of minutes. And there's some songs that do that fantastically, and that's all they need to do. Yeah. Not every song needs to be some magnum opus. There's a real in the context of a body of work as well, like an album. Well, we've talked about it being an interlude if it was to ever go on a record. Yeah. Not that we're striving toward doing a record or anything like that, but right now. Yeah, it's not right. But there's a that in itself is another area to build proficiency in, is how you take a bunch of songs and form them up over the arc of a whole body of work. I know all my favorite albums, they would have been labored over the track listing. Yeah. To get those 10, 12, 14 songs. And look, I think eventually, not eventually, like after we have a certain body of work to play with, we'll construct them into a body, I would say. Because I think that's kind of what I liked about the early Oliver Tree stuff, was that he just did the singles, and once he'd done that, he put it all together as an album, and at least part of it made sense to me. But then you look at something like all his records since then have been records, not singles. Yeah. So you suddenly have this this change of the way that he's producing stuff, though he still does them they kind of feel like singles, because his album cycle in particular starts a bit before the record comes out and then goes significantly after, because then he takes those songs and plays with them with social media and makes ridiculous films and whatever. So that in a way his album cycle, the actual music's just the start of the cultural interaction, not the end, if that makes sense. I mean, other artists, their kind of continuations probably more in touring than say what he would do, but maybe that's just my opinion of it. But yeah, I tend to agree with that. Like it kind of expands out from a moment. It's a nice way of thinking about it. It's very much like, for me, it's kind of got that haiku vibe to it. Yeah. So
lyrics. So what I think what we're doing at the moment is, or what I'm doing is kind of looking at the lyrics that we have so far. I'm kind of finding the bits that are meaningful and interacting with some other cultural ideas. Like one of the songs we're working on, I've Got Mine. It has like a boxing kind of fight kind of thing going on in the background. And just in my head, I've had things like that going around now around this Mike Tyson fight that's coming up, and like some of the kind of quotes around like former boxing champions. There's some interesting rhetoric around that. I need to remember the word pugilist.
Yeah, good word. Yeah.
Because that's what's his name, the UK guy who was a boxer. He's not a fighter. He's a pugilist.
Yeah.
Pugilist. I don't know how to spell it, but I think it's a great word for a lyric.
Pugilist.
Oh, that's what I wrote. How good. My dyslexia didn't stitch me up this time.
More like correctia. No, that doesn't.
Correctia. Yeah, so I've been thinking about ideas like that because culturally, like something like fighting doesn't really go away. You've got kind of things that that sits in conversation with, like Eye of the Tiger and The Boxer by Simon Garfunkel. And when we did our initial kind of thoughts around this song, there were some other songs that it sat in conversation with. But I think for me, given that I'll be kind of taking those lyrics forward pretty heavily because I'm intending to actually sing it or like perform it.
Are you?
Yeah, well, I said that to you the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
I clearly wasn't listening.
Well, you know, I feel like I want to kind of have a go at that one. Particularly given my life in the last couple of years, I felt like I've been fighting the whole time. I think I've got something to say, you know, which helps in the lyric writing for me.
Sure.
You know, the whole write what you know thing is certainly something that is very strong with the way that I write personally. Though I'm incredibly interested in ideas around character writing, like Randy Newman does, you know.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of don't know if I believe that he can write that well without some amount of writing what you know. But
no, well, it's all metaphor. Like
yeah,
at some point, all characterization is metaphor.
Yeah.
So just like you've just said, oh well, I'm going to take the kind of the feeling of being through the ringer emotionally in various ways and equate that to being in a boxing match.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's you've never been in a boxing match. You've never stepped into the octagon.
You don't know. You don't know me. I did do boxing.
Did you?
Yeah, for like 6 months in high school. It's fucking scary. I'm not a massive fan of getting smacked in the face, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Didn't end up in the ring like that.
Explains a few things.
Yeah, I mean, no, that was the injuries before when I was falling off roofs and stuff as a young tucker out there out there doing whatever the hell he wanted.
Getting up to mischief.
That's it.
Shenanigans.
That's
capers.
Right. Capers.
Capers.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. Yeah, so I think like I've been thinking about that kind of stuff around lyrics. Like where have you been at with the stuff that, like the ideas? Have you touched any of what's your kind of thoughts around lyrics for this week?
All that I've had is frustration this week with playing around with.
That's a classic writer's thing, so I've been told.
Yeah, it's well. So for me, I'm very much in proficiency building mode, and I'm in the space of I don't know what I don't know. In the past, when I've written things, I don't consider myself a particularly strong writer, and that
that's
that's kind of well, it's kind of like it's neither here nor there because
you raise up a lot of other really good writers in your head. Yeah.
It's one of these, my taste exceeds my ability. It's that classic thing.
Yeah.
And obviously the solution to that is to do more of it, to increase the ability until it matches or the taste and the ability grow together or whatever. One outpaces the other until they're even. But at the moment, I'm definitely in the space of I'll write something and then I'll look at it immediately after I've finished writing it and go, there's about 600 things that I don't like about this, and I don't necessarily know how to take it from what I've written to a place where it matches that taste level, which is a good and privileged place to be. I'm not upset about that being the outcome, but it doesn't make it any less frustrating to be in the process of doing it. And you get this little moment in your head of going, yes, that's good, and then you write it down and go, no, that's bad.
Yeah. Do you find, have you played around with the actual process of writing it? Like when you're writing, like, do you like to use a computer or by hand or?
Yeah, it's computers for me all the way.
Yeah.
And I was the same way with graphic design. You know, the advice when I was doing design work through university and the education part of that, the advice was always use the method that has the least friction for you, which is almost always going to be pencil and paper. But I just ended up using a computer until that was my that was the way that had no friction for me.
See,
I feel like writing's the same way.
I'm weird like that because like when I write haikus, I like using a computer because I just write it the same thing over and over and over. My process is starting with the idea and then I'll write it all again with some like just changing little elements of it, and then I'll do like that might happen 8 times before I get to a version or the version.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it ends up having 3 different legs, or it'll go off in 3 different directions, and I'll kind of pick my favorite. But they all kind of, I feel good to me. It's just the one is kind of better than good.
Yeah, so it's about versioning.
Yeah, and so you end up with this version history, which works really well for that kind of stuff. But for songs, unless they're kind of like, I don't know, music sounds better with you, kind of, or something like that, where it's like only 3 lyrics or whatever. It kind of doesn't work for these longer form. Like when it comes to songwriting, my kind of interest is in like kind of the flowingness of it. Like I like a lot of words in my songs, like Arctic Monkeys kind of amount of writing, which is kind of insane because they're kind of some of the best songwriters kicking around.
Yeah. I really like Best Coast for that reason. If you ever listen to them, there's there's not a moment where there's not words.
Yeah.
There's no space for anything else. It's just a constant flow of
yeah. I mean, I guess like some of that earlier kind of Death Cab stuff is also similarly disposed.
Yeah.
Lots of weird phrasing, but also lots of kind of like there's a lot of words in those relatively small songs in a lot of cases. But for me, using a computer to do that in the same way that I do it to write haikus, it just doesn't work.
Falls apart, yeah.
Because like I get kind of lost on the page because, you know, obviously a haiku is so kind of self-contained. It's just like there.
Yeah.
So I tend to like do like stream of consciousness with a pen and paper, or a pencil actually. Prefer a pencil, the texture of the pencil writing. I don't know. It just works.
Wanker.
Don't knock my process, man. Don't yuck my yum.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, like, I don't know, there's like a connection that happens for me that allows me to kind of get it out that way.
Yeah, and of course that's completely valid and
well, I
whatever.
just asked the question because it was an interesting question.
Yeah, I just use a computer because it's there.
It's there. Yeah, you're not precious about that stuff.
No.
I don't think I'm precious. It's just the way that seems to work for me the best. Like, I have written lyrics on a computer.
Sure.
And I've got an iPad with a pen, but like that doesn't it kind of works, but like the textual component for me really helps like transition the words for some weird ass reason.
Yeah, ritual. That's why.
Well, yeah, maybe it is because I did build that ritual by going to cafes and just sitting there with a pad and just kind of like automatic writing ideas down. Because that, like, for me, that's the process that helps me find the ideas. It's the same with the haikus. Like, when I do the version history, it's just like the next thought kind of popping into the next version.
Yeah.
And when I do it with a longer form thing like a song, if your brain pings too fast, that's when you get lost. Classic ADHD stuff.
Does our friend the Frustrated Songwriter's Handbook have anything to say on this?
I don't know. I haven't read it for a while. Pull it off the shelf, shall we? I don't actually...
Well, considering I'm now officially a frustrated songwriter, maybe I should read it.
Well, what are the chapters? Let's have a look at the chapters. The hamster wheel. I think that's the first chapter.
I know the hamster wheel very well. Me and the hamster wheel Good friends.
Yeah, and then like it's got the actual 20 song game, which is always fun. We haven't played that. I haven't played that with you, but I used to play that with a friend of mine, Matt Bell, a lot, like often.
Oh, we should do it then.
Yeah, we should play that game. And then there's the day session.
We should do it on stream.
The Songwriter Lodge, which
8 hour stream.
Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, why not? I'm sure there's lodges out there that do it. So like this book kind of united a whole heap of weird little songwriters into these things called lodges. Groups of people. Our lodge was called Interclef.
Oh my god.
And we were, I know, it was classic uni days stuff. It was 10 years ago.
Trash.
Well, it was, and it was like a couple of us from here, couple of guys from Europe, couple of guys from America.
So this thing advocates starting lodges.
Lodges,
right?
yeah, but just ignore that component because I'm not a.
It sounds Masonic.
It's very Masonic. It's very Masonic, but then it's kind of like in the 5th chapter, it's got the compendium like generating raw material and session themes, and they talk about the oblique strategies kind of thing. Very Eno-esque kind of ideas, and then games you can play just to help. But I actually think this kind of is a step in the wrong direction for us in some ways. Playing the 20 song game would be a good exercise, particularly for the lyrical component stuff, because you kind of have to sit down and your goal is to write 20 songs in 8-10 hours or whatever. You really don't have time to fuck around, which is kind of what we were trying to do 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago when we were doing covers and just pushing through the bullshit, But I think the thing getting in the way was the thing that you were just talking about before, which is that proficiency, the taste outweighs the talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, or skill, I should say. Where you know what you want to do, but you can't do it because you've
read too much literature.
Yeah. But I mean, I did find a lot of help in this book. There's a whole heap of pass the torch. It's not a big book. I mean, I actually prefer books. If we're talking about like little books that help one with their artistic, or with their artistic endeavors or their practical, their skill-based artistic endeavors, I would prefer like something like Stephen King's On Writing or The War of Art, just because from like The War of Art's more of a it's practical and philosophical. Whereas Stephen King's is a lot more practical. Pragmatic. And I mean, you can't write Pulp Fiction as fucking hectic as him without...
Performance-enhancing drugs?
Cocaine.
Yeah.
Cocaine. Well, I mean, he says no, but then I've never really been a big fan of his writing, except for the book that he writes about how he writes, which I think is a really great resource for any artist.
The 80s version of selling courses on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, it is, but it's so like the annoying thing about those courses is that they balloon out because they're about money making. Whereas this book is literally just like, this is what I've learned as a career writer, and it's this big, and you can read it in a day, and you can read it multiple times, and you're always going to find something else. Like that Muse thing that you said to me the other day, the Muse works for me. I don't work for the Muse.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that he talks about in that book. Like he talks about his Muse being this little fuckwit in the this massive fuckwit in the basement who never comes out and just likes to smoke cigars down there. And that he has to kind of drag him up the fucking stairs and into the chair every time he wants to write something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, I get, like, as I was saying the other day, right? So the idea of the Muse works for me is something that emerged out of my design practice and was, because I worked with a lot of people who would just say, I'm not feeling inspired by this or whatever, and to them, what
does inspiration have to do with it?
Well, exactly. Yeah, and
June reference.
I never had that problem, or rather I'd found my way around that problem by making the Muse clock in. The Muse clocked in at 9 and clocked off at 5.
But I found that incredibly difficult to do. I think more recently I've found it a bit easier because I've started kind of knocking things off my mental mental tally of crap that needs to get out of the way before I can get to this stuff.
The point is though that I haven't figured out how to do it for this.
Yeah.
For this, the Muse doesn't work for me yet.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't hired. HR hasn't onboarded the Muse.
I think it's gonna I'd like to talk about this a lot more like transparently, just even on like either on this stream or off the stream, and then bring it in here, because I think it's a hard thing to kind of to make happen. Like I've been able to do it in some things like producing broadcasts and things like that. Like the Muse works for me there in that I can do a lot of very creative things without really thinking about them. But when it comes to music, I have a whole heap of like mental fucking damage done by early teaching and shit like that gets in the way of me ritualizing it.
Unlearn it.
But in the last 2 weeks, I have been able to kind of work a lot more in music without feeling those feelings, which has been really useful. You know, they get in the way of actually doing anything. You know? So that's been good.
You've got the anti-Muse.
Yeah. But I like the ritual thing that you were talking about earlier as well. Like that, I think that kind of fits in with this idea of making the Muse work for you.
Well, I mean, rituals are so ridiculously important, and I don't think anyone really gives them as much credit as they're due.
I think that's why, like Friday Night Lights / whatever we're calling unnamed writing session, Night Terrors. I'm going to call it Night Terrors.
All right, decision made.
Night Terrors.
Night Terrors.
Works so well.
That sometimes we do in the day.
That we do in the day. Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever. It has multiple meanings.
You're a bloody terror.
I am. That. You know, it kind of is this kind of formula that happens, and with the right group of people who get it, like the group of people that we are inviting in at the moment, which is me, you, Matt, and the Ghost Coast pair, Tommy and Apucho. There just seems to be this kind of synergy that happens, and it just means that we get there really quickly. And it's not that there's no fucking around, because it is meant to be fun. That's one of the kind of founding ideas in it. But we are able to be productive as well as have a bit of fun. You know, it's not just a jam. There's somehow we've managed to roll these practical goals into what we're doing. Anyway.
All right.
I
So
think
we talked about lyric writing enough then?
Yeah, we've
about
talked about proficiency.
Other industry stuff?
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I think we've covered all the points that I've written here.
All right.
Proficiency and momentum, which are all things that are happening.
So what industry stuff do you want to talk about?
Well, you start, because I've been talking a lot.
Me start?
You start.
Okay. Well...
I can always start, but you can start.
Rather than talking necessarily about big releases and stuff this week, because we've done that for the past couple of weeks.
And there hasn't really been anything that is on our radar anyway.
Yeah, there's a bunch of little cool releases, but Beth Gibbons from Portishead released an album. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool.
But anyway.
Well, and I found a couple of new artists through some of the freelance work I did this week that I sent you.
Yeah.
What were their names? I want to say them so that I don't forget. Sid Sriram. I'm saying them wrong. Sid Sriram and Priya Ragu. They're kind of like UK Indian kind of hybrid, like rock, hip hop, soul kind of, and traditional Indian like classical music all mixed together.
Cool.
And recorded them at the Opera House, and they were amazing. I really want to go listen to the stuff after seeing those shows. They were very, very good. Anyway,
get some sitar into you.
Speaking of small releases, there was actually not a sitar in sight on the stages.
Well, there you go.
Guitars, but no sitars. It's very kind of fusion. It was very fusiony, which was cool. They had like harmonium, for instance, or whatever the equivalent of a harmonium is in India. And some flutes and things like that, traditional flutes, Punjab flutes and things like that. But it was still a drum kit. In Priya's band, it was like a full kind of soul R&B drummer, so with lots of tom rolls, and it was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Love that. what I want to talk about is there was some news that came out yesterday, which was this much mythologized Wu-Tang album,
Oh yes.
which is apparently a one of a kind object called Once Upon a Time in Shaolin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to get, I believe, its first public play.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's heard it unless dickhead fucking farmer bro played it on a stream or something.
Yeah. So the history of this thing is it was sold, and it was sold to this guy named Martin Shkreli.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon the pronunciation. Who was then
Let's not forgive the pronunciation.
almost immediately sent to prison after buying it.
Yeah.
And
For fraud.
it went through some weird series of acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's now been purchased or leased or something. And it's going to, but the point is, it's going to appear at an event put on by Mona in Tasmania, of all places.
Yeah.
Which for Australian audiences, they may have heard of Mona, but Mona is a thoroughly delightful and strange place.
Yes.
Where this just is completely
owned by an incredibly crazy individual, but also kind of very interesting guy.
Yeah, just one of your, classic interesting billionaires.
Yeah. Interesting billionaire that came from nothing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, through exploiting maths
in betting.
Yeah, found an issue with greyhound betting in Australia, and
all the other stuff that they figured out as well, card counting and.
Yeah, I think that was later though. I think originally it was greyhounds. I may be wrong.
I don't know. I don't think they talk about it too much, for very good reasons.
But anyway, yeah, your classic. Strange billionaire,
David Walsh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm personally very kind of enamored with the guy because I've read his Bone of Fact, I think is the name of his kind of rambling memoir.
Yeah.
That it's quite like, even though it's rambling, it's incredibly engaging, and it's all over the shop. It's like chapters of like just different parts of his life, and he was just writing when he felt like it, and then it was edited together, basically. So it's just a big old journal, but there's like a lot of interesting ideas in there, and it kind of speaks to what he's, been trying to do with Mona over the years. Because Mona's 15 years or 20 years old at this point. It's starting to become kind of an institution in itself, artistic institution, And it's known for the poo machine, I guess. I don't know what it's actually called, but it's a machine that mimics the human digestive tract.
Stinky, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's kind of one of the big kind of ongoing installations at Mona, and they feed it, and it gets sick, and it shits itself. And it does everything that the human digestive system what you would expect, and it does fucking stink. But sometimes it doesn't when it's healthy, I guess.
I've only smelt it stinky.
Yeah. I've smelt it not super stinky, but I've heard it's been a lot stinkier. And they give it a beer for its birthday every year, which is kind of funny. And Mona's also owns the original EMI Beatles console for your music fans out there. They have a studio down there that has a lot of this kind of historically vintage equipment. That's a more recent kind of
I think
endeavor.
about a year ago they acquired a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, bit
or at least that's when they opened the studio.
That's when they opened the studio, but I think they've had that console for a couple of years now. But
yeah,
but interesting kind of cultural artifacts, using one of our kind of key phrases.
Frying Pan Studio.
Yeah,
is the name of it.
So it'd be interesting. I mean, this it's an interesting place to do something like this, and I'm kind of interested in the legal kind of component of it, to be honest, because I think originally the contract around this particular record was it was never to be shown in public, from what I understand. And if it gets played somewhere, it will be recorded by someone on their phone and it will exist in the world.
I don't know. It sounds like it's a pretty like tied up sort of listening session that you become a part of. So they might lock up phones.
Yeah,
who
they
knows?
might not let you. I mean, you're not gonna. Well, I guess they could put you through a metal detector and make sure you don't have a
Lapel
wire.
mic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. I mean, do you know much about the original contract? Do you know anything?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, this is news from yesterday.
Well,
I've barely read it. It's
I
just
know a little bit about
fascinating.
the original contract because it was just something that was fascinating to me originally. So it was never to. It was meant to never be resold, from what I understood. It was never meant to be played. From what I understand. But the really cool thing was that there was a clause in the contract that allowed for the album to be taken back by Wu-Tang as long as it was stolen in a heist by Wu-Tang and Bill Murray. So if there was a heist, if Wu-Tang wanted the record back, the rights, the master effectively, there was a clause in the contract that allowed Bill Murray and Wu-Tang to together complete a heist of the record. I reckon, a heist of Mona would be quite good.
It would be good.
Starring Bill Murray.
It'd be pretty cinematic.
It would be very cinematic.
They'd get a lot of social content out.
Maybe that's the end game.
Yeah, maybe. Mm.
But I always found that to be quite funny.
Yeah.
Well, that'll be interesting. Is there a date on said?
15th to 24th of June.
So
Tickets available from 10 a.m. tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone wants to, get
tomorrow being Australian, the 30th.
The 30th, yeah, 30th of May. We're talking about 21 hours and 15 minutes away.
Yeah,
whatever that is.
Whatever that is. Well, I mean, if really Wu-Tang fans will be surely lining up for such an event.
Yeah, all of Tasmania's Wu-Tang fans.
Yeah, there's like 3 of them. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Wu-Tang's pretty big. They have a pretty significant fan base.
Yeah.
What are they sitting at on Spotify? I'm just curious.
On the charts. This box looks amazing for the album. Have you seen it?
No.
It's like this. Nah.
No, I know I have. It's like a silver thing.
Yeah, but with some really great engraving and things on it. Wild.
It's an art piece.
It's a beautiful object.
It's a cultural artifact.
It is.
Yeah.
The article on Consequence of Sound is good and short, but they've got a quote here from the Mona's Director of Curatorial Affairs, Jared Rawlins, saying, "Every once in a while, an object on this planet possesses mystical properties that transcend its material circumstances. Once Upon a Time in Shaolin is more than just an album." So I think that kind of speaks to the general feeling about this thing, right? Like it is already steeped in mythology, not just from Wu-Tang being such a iconic band, but also the fact that they decided to do this one-off thing, not knowing that it was going to be then purchased by an idiot
who who is his own cultural totem, technically, cultural artifact through and is connected to Hillary Clinton and Wall Street and American politics and all that, and him purchasing that record was tied that record to all of that event,
and made it more even more massively ironic. Yeah, because the whole point of the of Wu-Tang making this music in that or releasing this music in that way was a commentary on value, the value of art.
Yeah.
So for then to be produced or to be procured by someone who
is a greedy bastard,
earned their money through unethical means and has no social is a parasite on society effectively.
That's a good way to describe him.
Is so ironic, and then for it to be taken away from him is another layer of irony. And this thing ended up seized by the U.S. government.
It's been on
such a journey.
It's like one of those Indiana Jones artifacts.
Absolutely.
It ended up in the in the big warehouse at Area 51 for a bit there, probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some curatorial person followed its journey and pulled it out of there.
probably carrying a whip and a
It was actually Harrison Ford that pulled it out.
yeah.
Well, that's
Needs to be in on the heist, really.
yeah. I mean,
so and this thing, who knows where this thing's going to go next? It clearly is charged with.
well, it is. It's like the banana on the wall.
It's like the pick of destiny, you know. It's bouncing.
Is there a
around.
pick of destiny? An
I
actual
don't know.
physical object?
No, I don't think so.
Like, well,
It's just some silliness.
Jack Black, there's your next fucking single piece of merchandise that you
Oh
can
my
turn into the same, imbue it with the same power as this record has.
Mm.
Is it a CD? This thing?
I don't know. I'm assuming it must be vinyl, surely. Surely they cut it on wax.
Maybe it's a phonograph on a cylinder.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not like Dave Walsh couldn't afford a bloody mint phonograph player.
Yeah, just don't get it too hot. Melt the
Oh
the
man,
one-off
imagine
album.
that. That's
It once was an album. This wad of wax.
as if they haven't digitized it. Someone has to have digitized it.
Don't know.
Well, it has to be in digital somewhere.
Does it?
Well, I mean, it could just be on tape, but I doubt it. You know what I mean? There are records out there that never seen the light of day that are digitized. So, I mean, I wonder.
Mm. But it could also be something that's then been deleted. Like with, in theory, with art prints, when you do a print that's coming off like a metal plate, after you've done your run,
You just destroy the plate.
yeah, you destroy the plate. And so what you if you want to keep it, you end up with a plate that's got like a big strike mark through it.
Yeah, so it can never be printed again.
Yeah.
That
so-
itself would be a piece, like a cultural artifact, probably.
Well, yeah, these things can be, but they're kind of like, it's not like you can look at it and really see what the finished image is because it's just one plate of a set.
I think that would be cool though to put up like in a gallery if it was like say something like, well, they were all silk screen, weren't they? All the Warhol pieces, a whole heap of that was
Yeah.
silk
Yeah, but those
screen.
screens would still exist somewhere, maybe.
Some of them, yeah.
Dunno.
Not that he did any of the work.
I think that's unfair, but
He did some of the work. I don't know. I find his story fascinating. Anyway,
mm,
all right. So Wu-Tang, we've talked about that.
so that's interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
The other piece that jumped out at me was this Ed Sheeran playing on stage with The Offspring.
I actually think these two pieces are kind of connected in ways that we like to talk about around cultural relevance and crossover and putting things in different frames and like in different situations to gather,
Yeah.
New perspectives and all that jazz. Do you want to, like, I had only a quick look at the video. It looks like Ed, Ed had a bit of fun up on stage with what is effectively his first crush as a band.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know that necessarily the video gives you any context that just saying Ed Sheeran played on stage with The Offspring doesn't give you. It's exactly what you expect it to be.
Well, you get to see his reaction to it. Like, for me, the thing that was compelling about it, like, because I wasn't compelled when you first said it to me. I was like, I don't really care. But then I watched the video and I saw how much Ed was kind of nerding out.
Yeah.
For a guy like him who can fill one of our biggest stadiums in Australia, which is 90,000 people, 4 nights in a row, and just go on to another show in another part of the country and do the same thing. For someone who's playing to that many people to get up on stage at a smallish festival in Tampa, I think it was at, and play with a band that, had their kind of
they're now a legacy act.
They're a legacy act, from, the 90s and early 2000s. And to kind of get up there and be nerding out, that to me is quite special, even though I'm not really an Ed Sheeran fan, I'm not really an Offspring fan.
The festival's in Napa Valley, California.
I said Tampa.
Other side of the country.
Yeah,
couldn't
Napa,
be more
Tampa,
wrong.
sounds the same to me. They're both wine regions. All right?
What?
Tampa's a wine region, isn't it?
I don't believe so.
Whatever. I thought it was. I'm not American, all right?
Are you looking up Tampa wine?
Correct.
Oh my god.
Well, I'm just curious. Okay, you're right. Sorry. Napa.
It's too coastal.
Napa Valley. Well, I mean, Napa Valley's in the bay, isn't it? It comes off the bay of
No, it's further. No.
off near San Francisco, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not at the coast.
No, it's in the
It's
bay.
like-
It's off the bay, because they carry on about how the moisture comes off
You
the bay.
say
and into
whatever you
Napa.
need to say
I
to
don't know.
feel right enough to
I'm not
satisfy.
I'm not right. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I've been there.
Have you?
I have.
You're a fancy man, aren't you?
I've supped of the juice of the Napa Valley grapes.
Yeah, it comes. Yeah, it comes off. Yeah, it's where I thought it was. All right.
It's not in a bay.
Well, the beginning of the region is on kind of the edge of the San Francisco Bay or Half Moon Bay or whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
It is.
Cool. Anyway, the point is, I love seeing this sort of stuff. This stuff warms my cockles.
Mm-hmm.
Because this, like as you say, it's someone who is effectively achieving a childhood dream.
Mm-hmm.
But also, what's interesting about it is this is someone who is jumping out of the context of that they'd normally be seen in, and doing it joyfully.
Mm-hmm.
The temptation for a successful artist to stay in their lane can be pretty monumental.
I don't think Ed likes to stay in his lane generally anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, and his story is filled with examples of this sort of stuff. You know, going to the US and crashing on what's his name's couch for the first few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Foxx.
Yep.
You know, which, like, name a more unlikely pair. This seems to be typical of how he's built his career, which is fantastic. You know, that's part of how you reach audiences outside your own bubble.
Mm-hmm.
is by attaching yourself to people who exist in other bubbles,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is that same thing writ large, and just great to see. The overlap between Offspring fans and Ed Sheeran fans would be minuscule, but it doesn't matter because he's a fan, you know.
Yeah. And that will compel his fans to be Offspring fans and Offspring fans to be his fans.
Well, or at least to just widen their minds a little bit.
Yeah.
To understand that actually this thing that I really enjoy, even though on the surface is quite different, it is inherently influenced by these quite different things.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff should always be congratulated and sort of held up, in my opinion anyway. So yeah, very cool. Turns out Ed Sheeran has an Offspring tattoo.
There you go.
So, yeah, there's your trivia for the day.
Nice.
He's got a lot of tattoos, so it's probably unsurprising, but
yeah.
Yes.
Shall we move on?
Offspring. All right, let's move on.
All right. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back and continue our goal setting from last week. So I'm Josh. This is Simon.
Hello.
We're Frights, the band, making music, talking about making music, and being culturally relevant in today's music industry, and how to actually do that sustainably, and make a go of it.
Yeah.
Make it the thing that you do.
Those are the things we're doing and trying to do, and we'll get less waffly over time.
Yeah. Oh well, I felt like that was quite concise.
Yeah, no, that was good.
Yeah.
The rest of what we're doing is very waffly. All right, back in a few. We're back.
We're back.
We're
Hello. Welcome back. I'm Josh. This is Simon, the ethereal body of Matt here. We're Frights, a band making music, talking about making music and figuring out how to do it as our day job, basically.
Yes, we're on a journey.
We're on a journey, yeah, and we're at the start. Even though we've all
right.
done creative things throughout our careers, this is us figuring out how to apply what we've done into something that is ours, and that is culturally, significant. Because we're sick of producing stuff that is bullshit. Well, I'm sick of producing stuff that is bullshit.
Yeah.
And, so fulfillment is certainly part of it, but also making it the thing that is enabling us to pay the rent is important. And that actually brings
To
us
that end.
quite nicely to the continuation of last week's discussion around goal setting.
Goals. So, yeah,
you
to
wanna-
set the direction that we're going in.
Yeah. Do you want to do you want to show any of this on the screen? Or
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah,
wanna
I'm
see?
getting there.
All right.
All right.
Sorry.
Setting goals is
Getting
important,
excited.
right? So last week we set some really macro goals,
Yes.
and now we're going to narrow that down and get a bit more specific. So
Please.
this is our little iPad screen, which is not showing at the moment. So bear with me. That's not right.
There you
There
go.
we go. Hey.
There it is.
Cool.
There we are.
So this
And the
is.
sound's working this time.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Oh, look, I can see it on the
Unlike last week.
off tube.
So anyway, this was the very macro goals stuff that we set last week.
Yeah.
So just breaking down goals and challenges into a few categories, figuring out what's going to be important for us over the next 6 months, and now we can use this as a basis to set specific goals.
Yep.
Which will then inform what we actually do, how we spend our time to make sure that the outcomes we're achieving are actually important.
Yep.
There are some basic things here, like do domestic touring, for example, which is very low priority. So if we're spending effort on stuff that makes that's pushing us in a direction that makes that easier, setting these kind of goals will allow us to realize that we're wasting our time by doing that, and stop ourselves from falling into the trap of just running in directions that are there for us to run in just because they're there.
Yeah.
We've all got very limited time, so we've got to spend it effectively, and this is a tool for doing that.
Yeah.
So that's our opinions on this stuff. I don't think has changed at all since last week.
Hope
Which
not.
is
That would be problematic.
yeah, but it's another data point, and it's another thing to manage if it had.
Yes.
So that's where we're at. So how do we take it from here to then being a specific goal?
I don't know.
You don't know? I know.
I didn't do the course.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to on another screen momentarily. Bear with me.
I'm bearing. What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to bring up the dock on this screen, which doesn't appear to be
Oh,
playing ball.
what do you want though?
Well,
Out of the dock.
well, I want Notion, but I want to make sure that I get onto a new page.
I'll
in
just hit
Notion
command tab or whatever it is to switch apps. There you go. Notion.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm just gonna make a new thing here called goals. And I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to put that away. All right, and this can move down onto
Is there one on the other screen in full screen mode? On your iPad, is it on full screen
Yes,
mode?
but that should be fine.
Oh, if it's in full screen mode, it won't go over the top.
Well, that's annoying.
Which is unfull screen the other one.
Yeah, okay. If I can get the mouse over to it.
It's down the bottom of that screen.
But it's not. It's not letting me go. Oh, there we go. There we go. Look at me go. I can computer.
You can technology.
I can technology. All right. There we go. I might zoom out a little bit so it's not enormous. Come on. There we go.
There you go.
Hey, goals. So now, so setting more granular goals.
Yeah. Based on, well, I mean, we've got some personal goals and stuff. We kind of know what we want to do.
Yeah, but just referring to these and making them more granular. The way that I like to do this sort of stuff is
there a goal per kind of thing, or is there multiple goals per thing?
Well, we can get as granular as you like, but what I'm going to talk about. Sorry.
I'm asking questions when I shouldn't. I'll put my hand up next time, teacher sir.
That's right.
Sorry.
Make sure that you do. So
you're going to give me detention like every teacher gave me in high school.
I'll throw you off those roofs that you, that you mentioned earlier.
Maybe that's what happened. Maybe the teachers threw me out classroom windows.
And you've got no memory of it because they did a great job.
Yep.
Yeah. All right.
Roofies first, throw me out the
God.
window section. Second.
So anyway, there's a little framework that comes from a time in my life that I'm not proud of, which was working in the corporate world.
I thought you were going to say working for insurance companies, but it's the same.
Well, that was the corporate world to which I refer. But so something a little acronym that they used in those spaces for setting goals was SMART.
Mm-hmm.
SMART.
I'm smart.
What?
I'm smart.
You're smart.
Smart.
So, which is an acronym, as you might imagine.
Ducky, it's an acronym.
It's an acronym.
Do you know what an acronym is?
Why is this keyboard not working?
'Cause it doesn't like you very much. Just press that one thing again.
There we go. So, like the enter key doesn't work, the shift key doesn't work.
It keeps losing connection. The thing, yeah.
Wow. Anyway, we're off to a great start. So, any guesses? It's really cooked.
Just pull turn it over and just flip the batteries a little bit. I wonder if it's because there's so much in the way between that computer and.
I don't think it is.
Give it a.
Hang on.
Let me technology it.
It's fine. I'm gonna persevere.
Okay.
So any ideas what SMART stands for?
Special.
That's what the S is.
Yeah.
That would be an acronym for you.
Special. Special means. I don't know.
No, the first one is specific. So this is the qualities that we're trying to build into every goal.
Mm-hmm.
So making it specific.
Yep.
Making it.
I feel like I'm back at uni.
Measurable.
Oh yeah.
Making it attainable.
Fuck that. I don't like attainable goals.
Relevant.
That's why I've done so well in my career so far. It does keep losing connection. We need wired key. It's Bluetooth connected, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know what else is nice is I have a proper computer and I'll just go to the same page.
Yeah, just do that. That's a good idea.
And just edit it and you can watch.
Move that mouse out of the way and the keyboard out of the way then.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
You can go away.
Technology. This is the single most annoying thing about making anything artistic in the modern age when it involves fucking computers. Not fucking computers, but computers that are fucked.
Uh-huh. So
it still works in the same way.
Fourth point is relevant.
Relevant.
Yep. And the last one, any guesses?
Time sensitive or
time
something.
bound. Yeah.
I'm smart. I remember that one.
No, that's smart.
Okay. I am dumb. Delusional.
Unbearable.
Unmotivated. Misinformed. I don't know.
Misanthropic.
Miserable. And what's the B stand for? Butthead.
Yeah. Great.
It's a silent B.
It's a silent B. bastard.
Bastard,
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so
All right, smart.
smart. So each of the goals we're going to
This is
set.
like uni all over again. Go on.
So in theory, if we took a goal, like what's the first goal on that sheet there?
Get more streams.
So we can go
Start a weekly vodcast podcast
get more streams.
talking shit about the music industry.
So that goes from being a very nebulous goal. If we then break it down into smart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the specific part of that would be something like get 1,000 streams on our first release.
Oh.
So that's a specific goal. It's measurable already because it's 1,000.
We gave it a number, yeah.
It's attainable because it's not
Ridiculous.
it's not get 2 billion streams.
Why not?
Not yet. You know, make your first step because this is all part of motivation too, right?
Yeah, I know.
Like if we
Gotta
can
have some wins, get some points on the
better
board,
get points on the board.
as Matt likes to say. There's another like lovely
Little Mattism.
Mattism. That's what we got to call them.
So get 1,000 streams on our first release.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously it's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
So we're ticking a lot of boxes already, but get 1,000 streams on our first release, but time frame. So by
In a month. It's pretty chill. You'd hope we could get 1,000 streams off a release in a month.
by June 31st, or do we need to? Because it's going to take 2 weeks for it to actually hit a platform.
Oh yeah. It needs to be kind of mid-July, I guess, doesn't it?
By July 15.
Yeah, because we haven't, we need to choose a streaming service. We haven't even put it up or anything. Haven't even mixed it. That's all right. It'll be done pretty quick.
See what I have to put up with?
It's not my fault. I had to get all the other projects out of the way. So
I can't mix it.
Well, I know that. I don't expect you to.
All I do is ruin it.
You might make it better.
Nah,
You never know. You could be like a closeted, amazing mix engineer.
maybe.
You just don't know.
I don't know how to use the software.
I think that's part of the charm.
I don't have the software.
Oh, maybe it doesn't.
I've mixed this in GarageBand.
Nothing wrong with GarageBand.
So get more streams
It's the little boy's
becomes
logic. Go on.
get more streams
Yeah.
in a smart framework. This is not a great example because it's very short.
Yeah.
Typically, you'd have 3 or 4 sentences that establish this, but it becomes
We could go on a more macro scale because getting more streams, you're thinking about this particular goal is on a micro scale.
yeah.
A
so
more macro scale would be like a monthly listener base, like if you're looking at Spotify as a way of measuring metrics. That consistency is a word that I like to throw around a bit, and consistent streaming means you're having consistent engagement with an audience. That means that your songs are making it onto people's playlists, on their like songs, and they're making it into kind of inverted commas regular rotation, right? So when you look at that figure, so for Wu-Tang Clan it was 5.6 million monthly listens. I would have thought it'd be higher, but they're a legacy act too these days, I would argue. So
yeah, they're not actively releasing.
no, they're not. Whereas someone like a Ed Sheeran or a Taylor Swift would be tens of, if not hundreds of, if not billions of streams. Probably not billions of streams. Probably tens of millions, I'd say, monthly listeners. I think monthly listeners is probably a good, 100 monthly listeners. Jeez, I can hope we got more than that by then. But anyway,
Well, baby steps. If we achieve it early, then we set a new goal.
that's true. I'm not very good at this. I just kind of impulse it through life, which I honestly think it's kind of nice that you have this pragmatic approach and I have this kind of Delulu approach because I think it's a common thing for artists, and that's what we're kind of trying to demonstrate with these streams is that this, the general kind of a behavior across musicians, from my experience, is this my kind of behavior, where it's like there's a dream, but no real practical application towards the dream. It's all just like seat of the pants kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, in terms of actually attaining this.
How do we do it?
Exactly. So, H2.
Where? Where's the... Sorry, this is a technical question.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I find this page? What's it called?
It's just called goals. It's
Goals.
under frats.
Oh, it's in frats.
It's if you scroll right down to the bottom of the frats page.
Aha! Hello there. Okay, I just can't read it on that screen over there.
Fair enough.
Oh, duck, man. You
Drop
guys
his
are
guts.
lucky that you can't smell this. This little sausage can rip some tunes, that's for sure.
Yeah, right.
Don't look at me like that. You did that. He did that.
He
Yeah.
did that.
Do you have anything to say for yourself? That's what I thought.
He'd said all he needs to say.
Yeah.
He's made his thoughts very clear.
Said it with pheromones. Yeah, okay, so how do we get there?
Yeah, so what techniques are we going to bring to bear on this?
Well, I mean, the most, and you know, this goes to serve several other goals on here, and one of which is getting a few more social media followers. We would have to leverage social media in some way. That would be something that would be on the how kind of thing. You were going to say be featured on playlists, I'm assuming.
No.
Be featured on triple.
Well, that's not an actual how to get something done,
Oh.
is it? That's that's an outcome to be on playlists.
That's true.
To the how would be to approach playlist curators
Okay.
directly. So I was going to say be featured on social media posts
Oh yes, so sure.
by, I don't know, 20 friends, just getting them to share, asking them directly to share stuff.
Yeah.
Let's say. Yeah. Approach 5 playlist curators.
Mm-hmm. I think.
Well, maybe we'll say 10. If the goal is to be on 10, maybe we need to approach 20,
Yeah, because you're not going to get every
assuming that we've
single
got a 50% hit rate.
Yeah, because we'll measure this too, because this will give us an ability to measure this, because I'm not entirely convinced that it will get on any playlist, to be honest. Maybe we will. Maybe it is good enough. I think it is, but
I think it is.
but it's about people engaging with it, because I'm sure enough people, like there's so many people out there doing this, you know.
Yeah. What are we thinking? Like tee up interviews on, I don't know,
I
5 podcasts?
yeah, some like I know a couple of local podcasts that might be interested in talking.
Yeah. So 5 podcast / radio programs.
Yeah. I had something else in my head, but it has vanished. I can't remember what it was.
But this is just demonstrating the idea, right? Is like to go from a nebulous goal to now I have a pragmatic thing that I need to do. I know I need to produce a social media asset.
Yep.
And reach out to 20 of our friends and say, hey,
Can you share this?
could you please share this?
Yep.
So you end up with very granular, easy to achieve things, which then you can measure and manage and
Would be
and
so
guide.
if we're talking about let's say right now we're talking about not so nostalgic.
Mhm.
I think that's what we can kind of apply it to.
Well, if that's going to be our first release, then
just
yeah,
as
that's
a
what we're talking
well, it's effectively our first release that we're not going to necessarily do an 8-week cycle on because it's already done.
Yeah.
Whether or not we produce any derivative products from it, I don't know. I think maybe we should.
I think
as a
I think we should
practice.
definitely be doing some kind of remix of it.
Yeah. And I've already spoken to Sam about doing a gentleman leader hip hop thing.
Oh, have you?
He's very
Yeah, great.
excited about. So I reckon, so get more streams would be producing derivative music content. So that would be, but what that would be, a remix, a cover, or a sampled thing of some sort in another genre. These are all effectively, what's that word that they use for sampling? Starts with P. I don't know.
You're telling the story.
Yeah, I just can't think of the word. But effectively taking something that already exists and changing it in some way that is not so much that the song disappears to something else, but it becomes like it connects. It's it's a progression.
Okay.
So yeah, producing two derivative products using the materials from the song, so stems effectively.
Mm-hmm.
Because those things will get uploaded as features, they will cross-pollinate, and people will stream them as well as the song itself. And I fully recognise that could be quite difficult for some people. Followers on
Spotify. I'm just as a goal.
I didn't even know you could follow people on Spotify.
You can.
I don't know how to technology.
Well, that's when stuff ends up in your release radar,
Mm.
it's because you're following that artist.
Not because you just thrown a song of theirs on your liked songs. Does that automatically follow them?
No.
Ah.
No, there's an actual little follow button in their profile.
I generally don't like following people, to be honest. Like just like on social media and stuff, I just don't like doing it because I don't like their crap in my feed.
That's the M in dumb coming back.
Yeah.
Misanthrope.
Yeah.
I don't want to know anything about these people.
It's about being overwhelmed, I think, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me in particular, social media is quite overwhelming. That's why all this kind of stuff has been quite hard for me to engage with as an artist. So, we've got followers to how be featured on social media posts, approach 20 playlist viewers, tee-up interviews. Like, none of these obviously have time scales on them yet.
Well, no.
Is that because these kind of main goals at the top get more streams, are the ones that have the time scale?
Yeah, that's the stuff that's time bound, because this is more like this has to happen at the beginning. These how components need to be like the first things that are happening.
Yeah. The goals are at the top, and then the actual actions are underneath.
Yeah, so you do the action as soon as possible.
Yep.
With the view that it will have those effects down the track.
Yep.
And you can be looking at the outcomes of this stuff to go, well, okay, when we reached out to 20 of our pals, we got 500 streams.
Mm-hmm.
Just pulling numbers out of thin air here, but it didn't really convert into returning listeners or playlists or followers. So if those end up lagging behind, you're not going to get there by just pumping more friends.
Yeah.
It gives you options for diversification.
Yeah.
So yeah, we reach out to we do the thing with 20 pals, and then if that's working across the board, then we go to 50, then we go to 100. We've all got friends that can post stuff.
Yeah.
Then it's about fine-tuning that as you keep going.
Yep.
So it's less important for these to have time things, because they're things you're going to have to be doing all the time.
Is there kind of like a component for like breaking these down even further? So like, say for being featured on social media posts by 20 pals, is it we have to produce, like the how is we're doing that, but like then there's like a what we have to do to achieve that ends. So it would be like reach out to people,
identify 20 pals,
produce the content and share it with those 20 pals. And then would and I guess getting them to release it at a certain time, or roughly.
Yeah.
That fits in with their schedule. It's getting into this logistical stuff is the stuff that's makes things really difficult and is fatiguing, certainly for me. All right, approaching 20 playlist curators, so that'd be the same as the first one. Identify 20 playlist curators. We would have to have like some kind of EPK associated with this release, right? So we have to produce a small EPK of some sort. Doesn't need to be huge, just needs to be enough. Minimal EPK, and then get the timeline again. Do we set the timeline, or do we just kind of let them go with it?
It's less important for us to set the timeline with stuff like playlists and podcasts and radio programs and things, because it's just going to be when the thing's available.
Mm-hmm.
And being too demanding about that stuff is
problematic.
It's not going to help us really. Like, it might make it marginally more effective, but it might also cost us actually doing it if it doesn't fit in with their schedule.
Yep.
So being flexible, I think, is a good thing to do.
Yep. Turned out APK.
Yeah. So this is kind of true of the radio stuff as well. Like, that's going to work largely the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. Yeah.
What have you done?
I'm just breaking things.
And we've already started on. Well, let's talk, because for me the music component is really important. Obviously, the first thing on the how thing is to actually get the song up on the,
Well, that's true.
on the streaming services. I've already reached out to Sam. Who are we thinking? Who could do a remix of Not So Nostalgic? Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. Who would be a good fit to do a second thing? I think didn't Matt say that he wanted to do a remix of it?
Don't know.
I think he might have. If that's the one I'm thinking of.
It's the one with Brie.
Yeah, I mean I know what the song is, but I mean if that's the song I remember Matt talking about, because he definitely said that he wanted to do a remix of one of them. And I suspect it was this one.
All right, well, put that down as a goal, and I'll reach out to him.
I mean, he already has the stems, but...
Well, he doesn't have the mixed stems, and that's what we're waiting on for this. I need to do the mixing. So obviously, this was something that we talked about last week a little bit at the start of the podcast, and I had it written down, but the balance between what we're doing with Frights and what we're doing in our broader freelance careers is kind of tough when it comes to scheduling some of this stuff. And this is a perfect example of that. Because it is time consuming to make these goals and make them work, right? So so
but it's taking time to make time.
I know that. I agree with all that. It is taking time to make time, because some of the things that have been standing in the way have been projects that haven't been closed off, like this podcast that we've been working on, and effectively, me getting to mix Not So Nostalgic is me getting this podcast out of the way as quickly as possible, which is the next 2 days of my time. But then, effectively, that job is done, and the only jobs that I've committed to long-term around future mixes are Frights, which means things get done quicker at that point. It's about prioritising time,
Yeah.
And particularly when we start moving into this 8-week cycle, these kind of goals are going to be something that is hopefully templated and repeatable. It would become, we're going to kind of change things as we go, obviously, but there'll be things like we've been doing with this stream where it's just we know what we're going to do. We come in, we sit down, we do the notes, we get into the stream, we do the stream, we fuck off. That amount of workflow is going to be really important in the moving forward.
Yeah, and building that across the whole machine that is Frights is... it's not something that just pops out of thin air.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you read out the other goals for me that are there?
Support yourself financially. This dog is a fart machine.
It's all those bickies.
Yeah. Or it's just him being, you ate something outside you shouldn't have. Huh? You didn't eat the things. Anyway, whatever. Do interesting things, creative collaboration, which I think kind of fits into our general structure, the way that we structured the project. It kind of happens automatically without even necessarily...
Next one?
Be seen as an expert in whatever. we wrote? I can't remember. It's on your sheet.
It was in how to have a successful music career, basically, how to interface with the industry and wider public to have a sustainable career.
Yep. Be famous. That was kind of semi there for me. Not be famous necessarily, but be seen. I want to be seen. Get followers on social media, which I can't remember. Like, it was high, but it wasn't super high.
Yeah, well, I'm just going to scaffold these out. I mean, I'm not suggesting that we're going to fill all these in right now.
No, we'll probably do one more to demonstrate it again, but and then we'll have another intermission and get on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're going to run out of time very quickly.
Absolutely. All right, next. Get followers on social media was the last one.
Get management representation. I'm going to put the next two together, which is do domestic/international touring. So I think, honestly, at the moment, they're kind of the same thing for us. Support big artists on tour probably is included in that. Yeah. So that's the same one. Something else, we didn't write down anything else, I don't think, originally.
No, I don't think we did.
We don't need to worry about challenges at this point, do we?
Well, no. No, the challenges is more to just sort of keep in the back of your head. But the point was, and, you know, we can give these a like a star rating if we feel like we really need to.
Well, I think you can put them in, if you look at the original sheet, you could probably put them in order of priority for us.
Yeah, we can do that too.
Yep.
But, you know, it's pretty easy to just give things like a, you know, that's a high priority, getting more streams. Supporting yourself financially is high priority. Mm-hmm. Creative collaboration's high priority. Being seen as an expert's pretty high priority. This one's less. This one's pretty high. This one's like...
We said networking as well as part of that when we were talking about it last week. So the networking component's absolutely quite important. So at least a 3-star on that one.
Yeah. The touring was like a 0, and that's it. So being able to just have these as like an ordered list is useful.
Yep.
It probably would have helped to put the stars at the beginning.
That's all right.
But whatever. You get the idea.
All right.
So now we have basically a list of goals that exist there that whenever we're working on something, we can drop it down and
find the information we need.
You don't need to be thinking about what the idea is to spend your thinking time on stuff that helps,
the actual
right?
thing. Yeah.
So this gets it out of your brain, and then go, oh well, I've got 20 minutes to work on fright stuff. What am I going to do? Oh, how about I identify some playlist curators that might be interested in our music?
And for me, like in the other work that I do, I often have downtime. And so this kind of work is stuff that I can do in that downtime, which is really important.
Yeah, great.
Because I like to maximize my time, particularly when someone else is paying for it. It's you know, if we're talking about supporting yourself financially, being able to leverage other jobs, you know, people will say this is oh no, you meant to give everything for the job that you're working for. Garbage. Yeah, exactly. There are certain things that me and you both can do without even thinking about them, and that puts us in a position to use our brain power on other things. I think it was Einstein. I'm not going to compare us to him, but there's this kind of story that he tells about him working in the patent office or something. He worked in the patent office. It was boring ass work, and it allowed his brain to kind of focus on the scientific stuff he was doing. It might have been Edison. It was one of those guys from, you know, early 20th century. Science and technology that worked in a patent office, and that's where they were able to kind of do their best thinking because the work was
definitely Einstein.
It was definitely Einstein. It was, you know, it was the same thing over and over and over, rubber stamping shit. It was not really heavy brain work, and it allowed, and that's what we're talking about here. You know, there frequently on the work that I do outside as a freelancer, there is downtime, significant downtime, you know, where you've done your work quickly and effectively, and then you're waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
You know,
All right. So, SMART goals, supporting yourself financially. Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time bound.
Yeah. I think for me, and this is probably relevant, well, it's not so much relevant to you, but for me, around frights, it's about maximising my time outside. The goal I just spoke about, one of the hows is using the empty time in other jobs
Right.
in the short term
Okay.
to cover some of this stuff.
Okay. So you want to set this goal up as something that, with the view that it is going to change in like that 6-month mark.
Right.
And then we need to revisit it and make it so that this project is what supports ourselves. But in the meantime, the goal is to...
I think right now that is something I need to work on to... and which is something I have been working on. That when I'm at these other jobs and there's downtime, I get the laptop out and I work on these goals. You know, I work towards the ends that we've set in here. Writing an EPK, drawing up terms for a release, or busy work that can be done anywhere.
Yeah.
You know.
So would that sentence be fair? Chase work that can be completed without sapping energy or motivation for this project.
Correct.
Especially where this can be worked on while at that job. Where frights can be worked on at that job. Great. So is there like a specific measurable thing? I mean, I think in some ways we're already a long way down the road of achieving that.
Well, yeah, I think I've particularly in the last 2 weeks have demonstrated that I've picked up that ability to do that.
I haven't hit my stride yet, but working on it.
I don't think the only how with that particular comment is having the means to do it. You know, for me, I didn't want to take my production computer to the places that I was completing these jobs. So I set up one of the old MacBook Airs to take, because I don't care if that gets stolen. And everything I'm working on is in the cloud. Yeah. So it doesn't require me to have anything on that computer that matters, you know. So I went about making sure I had that laptop set up and was able to easily pull it out at the particular jobs that I was on quickly and just get back to it. I think if we're talking about supporting ourselves financially, it comes down to a question is how you actually make money in this industry at the moment. The thing that we've kind of identified as a good way of doing it, we know that touring is one of them, but that's low on the priority list. But we should write it down because we know that's an option, right? So how to make money from music. So the ways that I know are streams or selling records, whatever you want to call it. Selling records, merchandise, brand, like social media brand kind of integration, whatever you want to call that. I can't remember. There's a word for it. Collaborations, yep.
Yeah, effectively be part of a marketing campaign.
Yep. Sync. So your songs get synced to pictures. The other way would be, I guess, so that's social media brand collaboration. I think an extension on that would be like films or television, where you're actually you're collaborating with a production rather than a marketing campaign. Teaching courses, yeah, sure. I guess collaboration, just in general, you know, like if you collaborate with, say, with a more established artist and write a song together.
Songwriting?
Yep. Suddenly you've got an ability to, like, you've got some cross promotion there, particularly if you write as Frights, for instance, you know. Yep.
So obviously, yeah, there's some question marks there.
Yep.
But developing an understanding is definitely something we can do. So I think,
how do we develop a better understanding?
yeah, that's the part of it. Like, that's probably not specific and measurable enough yet. We haven't given ourselves, like, do we do that through interviewing people who have done it? Do we interview people who are successful sync people? And
Well, I mean, that's
and
kind of
pick
what
their
I do as
brains?
part of the networking component, right?
Yeah, but you haven't done it in a way that we can,
Yeah, I have
Like-
kind of done it, but we haven't ever,
not in a way that
not
we
like
can
this.
get it down into a, like, an artifact, like a written
Yeah,
version.
like something that we know at the start of a thing will
Mm.
give us income.
Yeah, it's all been pretty nebulous and unfocused.
And also, like, we've just not necessarily achieved any of those particular goals, I don't think.
No.
No. Like, we've spent a lot of time writing sync music for libraries and nothing.
Yeah.
Nada. It's been thoroughly
It's in a lot of libraries.
annoying. Yeah. It's in libraries, but it hasn't been used, you know. And that's definitely a tough pill to swallow. It's been great for our artistic practice, useless for supporting ourselves financially. So
Yeah.
it's become one of those things that's gone down the priority list. But there are obviously people out there who manage to make a living out of doing this. How the fuck do they do that? You know? Yeah, we won't go deep into that this week, but, like, I don't know. So I guess we've got to develop a better understanding of it. So, like, talking to people, like, so how do we develop a better understanding? Talking to people and saying what you said, like developing a framework out of that actually produces results, right?
Yeah. So this will be things like interviews with established practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
Could even do that on stream.
Yeah. Certainly something that we've talked about.
Call them in.
Call them in.
So yeah, I mean, it just off the top of my head, in our circles, we definitely know people who have successful touring and merch operations. We definitely know people who get plenty of streams, or can tell war stories about being involved in productions and writing sessions and things with things that ended up getting lots of streams that they were then cut out of.
Correct.
So plenty of war stories. I don't know if they'd be happy to tell any of them on stream. But
No, they're the kind of stories that if you tell, you never get hired again.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there's that to consider. But we can certainly try to find people who have had successful streaming campaigns.
Yep.
Social
if there's
media.
anyone out there who wants to have a chat, send us an email or a DM.
A DM.
Slip into our DMs.
Oh my god,
What?
nothing.
I love that phrase.
Don't slip into our DMs.
Do it. Slip. Slip and slide into our DMs.
Lube up and slip into our DMs.
It's consensual. We've asked for it.
Yes.
Anyway,
Syncs. We know a couple of sync people.
we do know a couple of sync people. We've had lots of conversations with them. Some of them very frustrated,
Yeah.
as in the conversations, not the people. The
Yeah.
people are incredible.
Well, that's it. They're all lovely people.
Yeah,
It's just we don't understand how they're making a living out of this.
exactly.
Out of
We
this
don't
thing.
understand.
So, I think there's a very clear path to developing better understandings and understanding that landscape a bit better.
I'm just writing. one
Yeah,
down.
please do. Get involved.
Research through using. Well, I mean, that's interviews, like research.
There's research written, existing
Yeah.
content on the internet.
People who've done it. Something like that. Written content, books, videos, yeah, all that jazz. I mean, we kind of already do some of this stuff, and it's an ongoing kind of process. but I don't think, even though I know people who do it and have spoken to them, it is not entirely clear how they got to that point.
Yeah.
Like a person I met with very recently, who recently had a significant sync of one of their projects that they worked on, of about $50,000 for one song. Like he told me that, and I was like, that's really cool that happened. And we didn't really go into it much deep. Like I didn't say how did that happen, because I kind of know how that happened. They've got management. The management kind of teed up the sync, so that's where that happened. You know, they know people that, you know, the networks that they exist in, know people that need